Alright, what we have here is 2006 Pontiac Vibe. Manual transmission, clutch went out. So, we already have new clutch and pressure plate installed. This is supposed to take a long time, and from everything that I've heard, it sounds like there's a lot more to this than what there needs to be. So, I'll explain to you real quick what I did. We unbolted the motor mounts from the frame, front and back. We remove the center pins from those motor mounts so that they could be separated. Front one was easily just pulled right out, no big deal. Back one, as you can see, is still there, but we were able to move it to the side and out of the way since it's no longer bolted in. Then we remove battery and this motor mount, lowering the engine down, and then removing the transmission by simply pulling it out past the frame here and then lowering it down with the jack. Now I'm going to be doing exactly the opposite to install it. We did have to remove the axles on both sides, which means draining the transmission first. Here we unbolted ball joint so that we could pop the axle out on this side, and then we swung the axle around to the opposite side of the control arm just to keep it out of the way. This side was a lot more tricky. On this side, we had to remove the ball joint and remove the knuckle from the strut. Turn the vehicle as far as we could to the left to extend the right side steering arm, and then we were able to pull the axle out and swing it past the control arm. Oh, something to note though is your brake line. There's not enough room if it's bolted on, so the first thing you'll want to do is unbolt that. Otherwise you'll be stretching far beyond what your brake line is meant to stretch. So from there, the next step is putting it back together. Here now I've one-manned the transmission back up into place and got it supported with a jack. From here, I'm either going to start with the motor mounts, or I'm going to start with the bolting transmission on. I think I will probably start with the rear motor mount. That seems like the logical way to do it. Because without the bolts, I still got a little bit of play. I can move the transmission. Because this transmission, of course, has no pilot bearing, which means I've got a little bit more leeway in tipping the transmission side to side as I get everything in place. Now, as you can see, I've got that motor mount there. Push down in there. There's a long bolt on the opposite side of it. So it's tipped in there at an angle, and the hope is that once I start to jack the transmission up to level things out, I'll get enough play, even if I maybe have to go past its mounting position, that I can get that drop down into place. Alright. Here we are with this. Very good view, no matter how we try and use the camera frame, but we'll see. Stand it up like this. Now we're underneath it. Just gotta line up a hole so I can drop into place, and I'm gonna need a different vantage point for that, but you get the idea. There's that long bolt, if you can see it. It's got to go down through a hole. And then that transmission mount right there will be in place, and it can be bolted in, and the engine can be bolted to it. And before I got started here, I did put in the 2 large 17mm head bolts top of the transmission, so it is firmly seated together, and I'm lifting from the differential. And we're pretty much going till we hit. Maybe didn't need to go that far, but I guess I wasn't taking any chances. Alright, here we are at this motor mount again, underneath the car where I can get that better vantage point. Here are the holes for it, so grab that bolt, line up with this place. Alright, see that? Now that that's lined up, there, as everything shifts into place, I'll be able to get that shifted into place as well, and yeah, it'll line up once again. Here we are, we got the motor mounts all reinstalled, bolted in. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Done it in like half the time that it said that it would take. Not quite half yet, but we do still have a few more parts to put in, so yeah, take about half the time of what the book says to do it in. So, yeah, some of these bolts are a little hard to get to, and would be easier if you just pulled the whole engine. There's no reason you can't do it in the car. Less tools. You gotta crawl around. I mean, that's always fun. Slows you down, but done. Didn't need an engine lift. I didn't need to drop the cradle. And yeah, it's excellent. So, as you can probably see, this piece right here, you have a mirror, or in this case my phone camera, sure makes things a lot easier because you cannot see where these bolts go. And you can see nothing from the top either. They're very hard to see. Here's that hole at. All of a sudden it looks lined up, but it won't start. Let's try again. Maybe I shifted something. You got it. Now just grab the wrench and tighten those on down. A ratchet with an extension, not a wrench. And actually, before we get into all that, I have here 6-inch extension. I have 2 of them. This is the extensions I've used on this whole thing. One of them or both of them, depending on which bolts I'm using. Apart from that, you're going to need 9/16 or 14 millimeter. Some would say that's wrong, but I can't find my 14, so I was using a 9/16. Here's a 12 millimeter, and everything I've been using has been deep socket. And then there's the 17, and I want to say that's the only sizes. No, wait, I take that back. There was some 10 millimeters on the battery tray. And of course, a companion wrench is great. Especially 9/16. You're gonna need that, or 14 millimeter for a couple of the bolts. And there are cases when I needed it also for the bolts behind the one motor mount. I couldn't get a socket in there. And you might find that there's certain times when having a wrench is way better than having a socket. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tighten those down and move on to the next step. Just thought, honorable mention here. You do have plug for your speedometer cable back here, so you know, not only remember to plug that in because it's real hard to get to with the axle in place, but make sure you unplug it before you try and pull the transmission. You're gonna have a bad day on your hands. Another quick note here is, in order to get this out of here, you just have to very gently bend this line out away from the cylinder, because there's absolutely no way you're getting a wrench or anything in there. That the alternative would be I pull that line, and I didn't want to pull a line because that means I'm losing fluid. It means I have to flush the line and bleed it, and just a little bit, and you can route it out of your way past these hoses and wires and hang it up. Actually, I had it resting right up here, right by the strut mount. That's where I put it. Alright, here we go. Here's something that is a little bit tricky. Down here, see, anyway, starter, right? Got your starter bolt here. The other one is on the opposite side, transmission side. Here. And there, see? So the starter bolt. And the bottom one is, of course, down here, but threaded from the engine side. That top one is really hard to see. All right, so I want to mention this. This axle, obviously, I showed you. It comes out without unhooking everything, but it is a tight fit. You have to kind of get that swung up as far forward as possible so that you can get that in past here and up into there past this piece over here. Well, you're getting past the oil pan with this boot and this little rubber piece here. Also the frame is also in the way, and this bolt here. So you're in for a little fight, but it is possible. All right, all back together. Easy when you know how. All right, so road test.